Hello and welcome to the Podawakens and our Skeleton Crew recap episodes. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, is Ron. Harry T. Ron.
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be back with you here. We had a bit of a week off, to kind of deal with
Unplanned.
some personal stuff. But honestly, I think it ended up working out for the better anyway, because we have a lot more to talk about today. And I think it'll be a much more substantial kind of episode. Whereas if we just kind of did last week's, which wasn't quite as much moving the story forward
Moving
and
the
such.
40. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, all in all, I say that to say it worked out for the better. But I'm excited because we got some really interesting stuff to talk about today.
Yeah. So what's funny though is like that whole week it bothered me that we didn't record. I'm sitting there like, oh, maybe I can put out something. No, I just get into that mode sometimes,
Yeah,
where I can't
sometimes
relax.
you just gotta be like,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay to
Yeah,
take
it's
a peek.
okay. It's okay. So let's just talk about this off the top of the head too. Up front, it is Christmas next Wednesday, which is when we usually record these episodes. So what we're going to do is just package episodes 5 and 6 together, just like we're doing this week with 3 and 4, and that'll release, in the new year. But just like one, listenership is usually down around Christmas anyway, so spend time with your families. Don't worry about when we're putting out an episode.
That's the main part. Like, there's way more important stuff that week, and
Yeah.
it'll just give us a chance for like we're gonna do today, more of a jam-packed episode for next time.
Yeah, so of course we're talking episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3 is very interesting as an astrogation problem, which aired December 10th, 2024. That was directed by David Lowery and written by Christopher Ford and John Watts. The Disney Plus description: a mysterious stranger offers to help our heroes. And we'll also be talking about episode 4, which is Can't Say I Remember No At Attin, which was directed by...
I think you said that wrong.
What did I say?
Can't say I remember no.
I'm not as good at that type of voice, but that was directed by the Daniels and written by Christopher Ford, John Watts. And the Disney Plus description is: our heroes face a surprise in a familiar setting. So those are what we'll talk about. We'll kind of bounce around, I think, between the 3 and 4. What sticks out to us? I think episode 3, I enjoyed very much, actually. I really liked the new character Kim, which was portrayed by Alia Shawkat from Arrested Development, by the way. I have a picture of Kim here.
Hey.
There we go. But guess what I really loved about it, Ron? I really loved that they decided to give us a clear view of the symbol that we were analyzing.
Yes.
After the premiere, and then Kim scans it into her computer.
Yes.
And analyzes it and says, something about how it is, kind of where it comes from. And what we learn in episode 4, which I think is probably the beneficial part after already watching both of these, is that the coordinates that she will give them is to another planet that is one of those that she mentioned before, that there was these planets that were tucked away and they were destroyed. And really only At Attin is the one that's kind of missing at this point. And this one was called At Attin, I believe, right?
Yep. Oh, I got the theory all crafted already for when we dive
okay.
in. Yeah.
So I think that means we saw the mural in the At Attin house as well, which means to me, I think this symbol is related to the great work that they're all working towards, probably, that all the planets were working towards. And she accidentally gave them the wrong coordinates, maybe because of this symbol being related to that whole area. But I'm curious. Give me your thoughts.
I think I just gotta come out with this one now because it's what we're talking about. I don't think she gave the wrong coordinates. I think she gave the right coordinates that are just very old. So my working theory is that Ad Attin was originally Ad Attin as we know it. I think that it was part of the Great Works They were probably promised by the Republic that were, behind all of this great works, that this was going to be, kind of like we said in the first, the greater good. Like they were going to come in and like bring them into this, whole network of planets that are going to be responsible for this greater good in the galaxy. And then it turns out that basically what happened was their planet got stripped and mined of all its resources and basically became this sort of post-apocalyptic wasteland that we saw this whole planet end up being. Because we did see that it was also a one-of-one kind of replica of At Attin, down to the schools and all the locations and things like that. It's basically just a carbon copy. So what I think happened was that the original governing body of At Attin, after this whole great works thing happened, where they came in and they mined the planet of all its resources and basically left them, screwed. I think this governing body basically picked up shop, said, screw all the people who live on this planet right now, and we're going to go to another planet and kind of have a redo, basically. Start this new planet away from all this other stuff. Put the barrier around it so that nobody can find us and all this stuff. Because there's that mention that, what's his name? Strix, I think his name was. Let me get up in my notes here.
Yeah, the father.
Yeah, he makes the mention about, like, acknowledging the kids' strength and teaching them to fend for themselves and all that. I'm wondering if that's a little bit of like, hey, we used to be very reliant on the governing body of this place, and they just up and left us. So there's no way to go except to learn how to survive and sustain on our own. And to kind of further that a little bit, we also get that scene with SM-33 where Fern kind of, no pun intended, like Jedi mind tricks him into revealing the actual coordinates, right? And he instantly goes into like kill mode. I think that his original captain is whoever this supervisor is on At Attin.
That was a theory I saw going around. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even see that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. And yeah, that's just, it seems like there's a lot of signs that point in that direction. I think that this was At Attin. It wasn't At Attin in this. It wasn't called At Attin. It was still called At Akron. I think that At Attin was the name they gave their new planet, just to kind of pay homage to it, I guess would be the way to put it.
So the way that it's an interesting theory. The way that I read this and the way that I am theorizing now is so you think like At Attin was made after At Akron, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that they went there. The way I understood this is all of those planets that were the jewels of the Old Republic were set up in the same exact way of At Attin. So my thought is like, if they go to any of those other pillars in that room and they go there, it would be the same exact setup. I almost feel like it's almost like an experiment type of, either like an experiment of like, we're building the same thing like 7 times, however many planets.
Like a weird, like utopian galaxy sort of thing. Okay.
Or it was just like, hey, we got the blueprints already. Kind of like when you go through like a suburb and all the houses look the same. I feel like maybe they were like, look, we already have the blueprint for this layout, and we're just going to move it to all of these other ones so we can just get it up and running. So this thing starts going. And what I would think with, I do like the theory of the Onyx cylinder, right? Captain being the supervisor. I think that would be cool. And one thing that I think would be really cool about that is if actually At Attin, when he blasts the, when SM-33 blasts the coordinates off, is that's when they actually hide the planet. Meaning like he then goes to At Attin, takes over as supervisor, and he's the one that puts up the barrier and starts making rules about you cannot have, people inside or outside. And he's just tucking that place away because he knows of this resource. And maybe it was already too late when he got to At Akron or something, right? Like, could be that. I think what Captain No Head or whatever they were calling him, the
Yeah.
statue there. I think that might come back around.
Oh yeah.
With some sort of reveal, or just like maybe At Attin has one as well, but it looks different, and it's because
Yeah.
that supervisor put himself in there or something.
Mhm.
That was kind of my vibe on it. Is that like I think that they were just all made that way for either some sort of scientific purpose or just like, hey, this is almost like a utility, manufacturing belt type thing of
Mhm.
like, just assembly, like, just take this and put it
Like
together so we can get
like
this going.
buying those prefab house kits that everyone's
Yes.
getting these days. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that definitely could be. The only thing I'm wondering though is this and I'm with you on the theory about the captain, obviously, but he would have to be very old at this point then, no? Like hundreds and hundreds of years old if he was the one who founded At Attin. So
Yeah.
that's
Unless if
interesting.
there is something that they are mining there that would keep them young, almost like a fountain of youth type of thing.
Ooh.
Or it could be another species like a Yoda, like a Maz Kanata, where they are
That's what
very,
I'm
very old. Yeah.
just what yeah, that's probably where I'm leaning to. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting theories that we can go from right now. Um hmm. Yeah, I think either one of ours is probably the best bet at this moment. That's funny that you said the captain being the supervisor being his own captain was like a thing that was going out there. I hadn't even seen that.
I saw it on somewhere. It wasn't from you, but I was just like, "Oh, that's really interesting." And I was going to bring it up, and then you just brought it up, and I was like, "Oh, well, there we go." I was going to be like, "Oh, there's this interesting
Yeah.
theory going around," and little did I know.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. No, it was it's interesting. I'm trying to go through my notes from last episode and see if there's anything else that would yeah, because there's in episode 3, there was clearly a reason why they don't want outside worlds being able to contact them. And that's kind of the big question of it all, right? Kim says that they're hidden along for the or that Ad Attin was hidden along like for their own protection, which I'm
Mhm.
curious about because it's like protection from what? Because it's clear that whatever happened to all these planets, like they weren't hidden for their own protection, because if they were, then they wouldn't have all been decimated in this way. So I'm just, again, there's all these pieces floating around, and the puzzle came together a little bit better this week, but I still feel like there's just one sort of smoking gun that we're missing here.
So what if we take another part of my theory, which I'm not as sold on, but let's say we take something like this is some sort of scientific theory test, trial type thing, right? Experiment is the word I was just looking for, where maybe the reason why all these planets might be set up the same way is because they are actively looking for something and they didn't know what planet in the region has it. And when it turned out
Oh,
Attin has it, they shut out, they take down the other ones that were experimenting the same thing. They wipe the experiment clean, and then they shelter At Attin away from the rest of, the
that's
galaxy.
interesting too, because like if it was one thing in particular that they were looking for that wasn't readily available on all these planets, like if they're all one of one carbon copies to each other, like good luck describing that to somebody. You know what I mean? You're like, say it's pirates, and they're like, oh yeah, it's on this planet, it's in a place that looks like this, and there's this landmark and there's that landmark, and it's like, okay, but there's still 9 different planets that have that landmark. So like that could be a good idea. I didn't that's smart. I didn't even think of that. That could be
Yeah,
hiding in plain sight sort of thing.
yeah, I'm really curious to see where this will go because, like, once they land, I'm like, okay, maybe we are going to At Attin this quickly, and like now the rest of it is looking for maybe not getting home anymore, but now the next part is let's look for that treasure on home. And I do think
Mhm.
eventually we're going to get there, and that'll be kind of like the climaxes. All right, we're
Yeah.
back on At Attin now. We have to find the thing that is this, or take down the supervisor, stuff like that, right? And that is what I'm thinking of. And when we were landing there, I'm like, this does look very similar. But then once you start seeing everything like being torched, they're like, oh, this has got to be one of those other planets that Kim was mentioning. Confusing, it's at Akron, right? But maybe that's part of the same system, right? And they're all called at something because they're in the same like area.
Well, because I feel like there's a lot of very intentional wordplay that was thrown around in episode 4, at Akron, at Attin. And also, what are those sort of rebels that they're hiding for, or not the rebels, but kind of like the bandits that they're hiding from? What were they called? Like Hottins or something like that?
Yes, I have it here. They were called the Hatton tribe. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like Hatton, at Attin, at Akron. There's some kind of very intentional. I refuse to believe that the people who made this show were just like, we'll just name them whatever. And they all got this close to each other in name, and it was an unintentional move. It feels like there's the bones of something there. There definitely is.
Yeah, at Akron, at Attin, Hatton, Troik. That's the one that doesn't really fit.
There's the wild card right there.
But then even the girl that they meet, what was her name? I
didn't get her name. I didn't get her name.
StarWars.com. I was looking at it earlier. They had her name. I'm looking to see if I have it here. Her name.
While you're looking, I will just reference the fact of something with her. It was kind of cool. We got another classic sort of 80s project kind of trope with Neil kind of getting the girl, so to speak, and like sort of finding his courage after that moment where she gives him the little peck on the nose and he stands up to SM-33, and it was like, cool. We got that moment we were expecting from him of, kind of coming out of his little cowardly lion shell, so to speak, not just being the classic, like, guys, I don't know about this anymore. So it was cool to see that. And we also saw some development from Fern. We're kind of seeing that bully sort of rough exterior start to break down a little bit. So we're definitely hitting all the good beats in terms of progressing these characters. And, you might look at it and say, oh, is this happening all too quick? At the end of the day, it's an 8-episode show, so they're going to have to kind of keep things moving a little bit. Same thing with Jod, with his kind of turn to sort of accepting and embracing this role of, being the stepdad, for lack, the kind of caretaker of all these kids, where he was just this hardened pirate just looking to get off of Port Borgo last episode or a couple episodes ago. So they're going really quick with kind of moving the characters through their story arcs, and I'm glad to see it, because it's going to leave us more time at the end to really explore whatever this mystery is. But all right, I will stop rambling. Let us know her name.
Her name is, I lost it. I'm just kidding. It is Hana.
Hana. Okay.
So I thought she'd be part of the Hatton tribe.
I was expecting her name to be like Batten. Yeah.
Yeah. And Strix was her dad. I don't know if Jod is all the way there yet. I still think he is at this point starting to, especially when like Neil hugs him and he's kind of like, oh, okay, I'm actually doing something here. But I still think at this point he's like, I need those kids so I can get to At Attin. But yeah, I think at the end of the run here, look, people can say stuff is rushed sometimes or whatever, but like seriously, go watch something like Goonies. Like that happens in a much faster time than we're probably going to get to by the end of this, Yeah. So we do have more time for some character moments. We got that in this one where we kind of heavily focus on Neil. We even see KB start to step up a bit in the sense of like Wim high-fiving her and her getting like, oh, this is what like having a friend is like type of thing by her reaction when she high-fives him. It's like, oh, okay. Like that's cool. And with Neil, we get that great scene where he gets his ration and goes over and gives it to people because he knows he probably has stuff. They probably still have a couple rations on the ship. There's, he doesn't really need this right now.
Yeah.
And he's just a kind guy, right? And he just gives his ration.
Yeah, that's it. He's the moral compass of this group for sure. The only one that we haven't really seen get like, really start to dive in, or at least we have, but I feel like it's kind of taken a back seat the last couple episodes, is Wim, which is ironic because during the first two, it looked like he was sort of the main protagonist driving force. But I feel like he's almost taken a bit of a back seat in the last couple episodes, and I'm sure that was intentional. And the next few episodes will really emphasize his side of things and probably delve more into what his dad's doing with this whole administration on At Attin. So I think next episode will probably be very like Wim character progression heavy and his dad character progression heavy, probably in like the sort of parallel kind of same time thing going on.
Yeah, I think it's with Wim, I think if we're looking at what this character is probably going to become as we go through here, right now he's living his best life. So there is a little bit less character progression going on for Wim right now. He's finally out of At Attin. He's living the dream. Like last week when he got to get in the gunner seat, right? And he's just firing. He's like, he's having a fun time, right?
Yeah.
And then this week when they're doing the like training and stuff, he has his weapon and he's going through it, like he's having fun with it.
And he gets fucking knocked like 20 feet back.
But he's having a ball. I think his character arc would be like something serious is going to happen to where he's like, you know what? I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah.
I want to go back home. Or like, something along those type of lines where he's like, maybe I am in over my head too much.
I wonder if it's going to be a thing where he gets like separated from the group and it's like, well, I'm alone again, just like I was, at home with my dad at work all the time. And it's going to be about him kind of like having to, I don't want to say find his inner strength, because that would feel a little like, his character arc is learning how to deal with being lonely. Like that would feel a little like, like there's got to be more of a.
Well, what if it's this? When you just said that, him getting separated, maybe it's intentional separation. Everybody else wants to go home and he's like, I'm having the best life ever. I want to continue to going with Jod. I want to go do something.
I want to be a Jedi. Then, I want to go.
Right. And eventually he turns around and goes back to the crew for some reason. Right. Mm-hmm. And like that could work, something like that where we see that in movies a lot where they kind of like go their separate ways and then meet back up. I know this is not related at all, but the first thing I just thought of was Superbad when Seth and Evan split up at a certain point and then they end up, getting back together to hang out.
At the party, yeah. So which one's McLovin?
Yeah. That's Neil.
Nice!
Right? What you said about Fern too, I think she is having that moment too here when she realizes, this whole time she's like, I'm captain. And she gets put in these positions this week where she realizes maybe I'm not cut out for that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. One, when this weird way that they handle stuff on this at Akron, where Strix is like, all right, yeah, you guys are going to be in front of us and lead us into battle. And she's not comfortable with that. And then when things are going wrong with SM33 and Wim is coming over to try to cheer her up and she's like crying at the window and stuff, that was a nice moment between those two because they've had so much conflict. But like Wim is actually trying to build her up there and she doesn't take it that way at first, right? She kind of just, I don't know, is upset. But then it jogs that thing in her memory when he says, and this is something that we, like in any other Star Wars show, we have not really had these type of callbacks so far that make great foreshadowing. Like this was, when I saw this happen, I was like, great setup in episode 1 when she comes home and reprograms her droid.
Total throwaway 5 seconds. Yeah.
Great build up to this moment where she's like, oh, the way he's even saying this, I don't remember no At Attin. It's like, but he does. He's, his memory wiring is wrong right now. And he's kind of, we've got hints throughout these episodes too of that, right? Last week he was doing something when he was going up to Jod while Jod was walking around the ship. And then we had it again this time when Jod is stealing the coin.
Yep.
And he has to be like, it's Jod. And he like, lets go. He's like, oh, and he's,
yeah,
my wiring is cross type of thing. And then So he's leaking stuff about At Attin and being here before, and that gives Fern the idea of, okay, there's a way to get this information from him, because he definitely knows.
Yeah, yeah. And that's also the moment that I mentioned where we see Neil kind of have his courageous moment, you know, kind of saving the gang and almost getting, as SM33 put it, what did he say, torn limb from limb? Like, geez, that thing got dark. I was not expecting that. I thought SM33 was just going to be like the jolly old, you know, companion.
You just thought he was going to be iconic.
Yeah, and then he goes like spider suit, like insta kill mode. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a shock. I was wondering, like, she tries to talk to him there, like, I'm your captain and stuff. So if we're putting on our theory caps here, Jod had to turn him off.
Yep.
We know his memory flips back and forth a bit, so it's either they have to fix that, or when they turn him back on, he's not going to remember what they were just talking about, and he'll be pleasant again. But like, how do they then breach this to actually getting the right coordinates at a certain point?
Yeah, that's kind of the tough part of it all. I mean, the lazy thing to do would just be, we're going to pick apart his inner wiring and hook him up to the ship, and somehow that'll do it. But I hope there's a little bit of a more creative and in-story way to do it, because that would just feel a little bit kind of lazy and like, we just got to get from point A to point B with this, so let's just do it. I hope it's not. I hope it's something a little more creative.
Yeah, it's curious on, like, yeah, I guess they could hook him up to the ship. There could be, again, just being like, no, I'm your captain, remember? And like her, like, overriding it. There could be, I would think we're probably going to start with, like, the next episode, them trying to like lug him back to the ship or something, you know, and then try to put him somewhere where he's turned off still for a little bit while they debate on what to do.
They'll all be carrying him like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man
through the subway.
Be careful, he's a hero. Yeah.
Except the reverse. Be careful, he tried to kill us. Don't turn the on switch on.
Yeah.
Great move by Jod. That was a quick turn off.
Yeah.
He must have been studying where that off button was when he was getting confronted by him a few times.
Yeah. I'm really a fan of Jod so far.
Again, you know, actually, sorry, real quick.
Oh, you're good.
He turned him on when he went to free him in episode 3. So of course he knows where the switch is.
Yeah.
That's my bad again. Yeah.
Yeah. And just all the time he's been a pirate and all that stuff. Like, I'm sure that's a weird, it's like hot wire in a car. You know what I mean? If you're in like a gang, you know, it's just like one of those weird skills you pick up along the way. I want to ask you though, did you notice, separate from all this, did you catch the KOTOR reference in this episode?
Which KOTOR reference?
So when they were talking about like what the heck went on with Ad Attin, and Wim makes the comment, he goes, do you think we fell asleep for 100 years like those tales of the Knights of the Old? And he gets cut off right there. And Revan obviously getting held captive and held in this like stasis for, what was it, like 300 years, I think, in the novel.
I don't know. I haven't read the novel yet. I haven't, but
yeah. So
that would be an interesting pull
in the novel, or it might even have. Yeah, I'm 99%.
It's definitely not in the game. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, it has to be the novel then. Again, my Revan point of reference is that 10-hour fucking YouTube video that I told you about that I watched on him. Just so I don't. It's tough to piece together what's from what. But there was a part with Revan where he's fighting the what is it? It's the Emperor. I forget what his name. Do I have it written down here? Vitiate. And the Emperor locks him away in this sort of like stasis prison for 300 years. And like while he's in this prison, like his kid has a whole life and dies, and you know, like basically the whole life that he knew is gone. So I think that was 100% a reference to that. And I kind of like got a little pop from that when I saw it. It was funny.
Could be.
Has to be. I don't know what else that could have been a reference to. He even says Knights of the Alt, and right when he's about to say it, he gets cut off. It's like, it's got to be.
Maybe, yeah. I would think if that happened in the book, or if it would have been maybe the way to get him into the the online game.
That was the
It could
only
have been
other
the
thing
way
I
that
was
they
thinking
had
of.
him pop up in that, maybe, because I know they
Yes.
continue his story in the Old Republic game as
Mhm.
well.
The game, the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That might have been it too. Yeah. Either way, definitely a funny little nod, and hopefully an intentional nod, and we'll get that Old Republic animated show that I've been beating the table out for years now. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, because I would think that, just as a small tangent here, it's very tough to do if you're gonna have Revan anyway. It'd be very tough to do because of the way that the first game is, which is pretty much your player character, spoilers, is Revan.
Yeah.
So like,
What the hell, man?
yeah, 20-some-year-old game, right? But like that would be a problem because a lot of people play that as like, that's my Revan, type of thing. So it kind of becomes an issue when you try to adapt something like that, or canonize like all the stuff you're talking about in that video. Sorry, hashtag not my Revan.
Yeah. Well, my thought on it, to fuck it, we'll go down the rabbit hole. There's not too much left to talk about in this episode. So, my pitch for it was a Mandalorian Wars show, which is long before the KOTOR game even takes place. So I don't think it would be
just in the time frame.
Yeah, so I don't think it would be infringing directly on like the choices you make in the game, and basically how you craft the character yourself. This was all like pre-established lore that most definitely happened, no matter how you decide to play the game. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Hopefully this was the first little step in that direction. Doubt it, of course, definitely grasping at straws here, but it would be cool if it was. So who knows? We know that they have some kind of animated show in development.
That would be the only way that would work, I think, is if you avoid the actual time frames of KOTOR, like the game, and do stuff before that, do stuff after that. You can allude to Revan and all of those, Darth Malak and all that, but that's probably the best way to do it. Let's see here. Oh, real quick, wanted to mention last week's episode. We learned that, I guess, do we think Jod is his real name? Because he also went by Crimson Jack. He's gone by Captain Silvo. So is Jod his actual name? And just a fun little shout out here. Crimson Jack is an actual comic character in the especially the old Star Wars Marvel books. They brought him back into the new canon at some point. So I don't know if he's supposed to be that guy or if he just took the guy's name. But yeah, just a fun little nod to that, which is probably something that like Christopher Ford and John Watts read as a kid or something.
Very much so. I think it was totally just stole the name and stole the title. In our last episode, I made reference to, it seemed like Jod was sort of this, kind of just getting by, just doing whatever he could to get from one point to the next, sort of fake it till you make it sort of thing. I think it was 100% just a name that he took because it, maybe he killed the real Crimson Jack and it was, oh, no one's going to know. No one knows what he looks like because he always wears this thing over his head. So I'll just take his helmet and I'll be Crimson Jack. I think it was very much something like that. And I would say no, I don't think it is his real name, because why would he just give that up to a bunch of random kids, if he's gone sort of alias to alias in this way? Why would he just randomly decide to give these kids his actual name? It's a short, easy thing. You can just, my name is Jod. Like, you know what I mean?
Jod Nawood.
Yeah.
It sounds made up.
It does sound very made up, right?
Jod Nawood.
Yeah.
And he meant Jod Nawood, but they were like, Jod Nawood? And he's like, yeah. It's like that Peter Griffin thing where he's looking around the room and he's like, P.
Griffin. Yeah, Peter Griffin. Yeah, crap. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly what I thought of. Hell yeah. No, he's actually Qui-Gon Jinn reanimated, and he just doesn't want to tell anybody that. So I think that's what it really is.
So he would actually be Obi-Wan, right? Because we found out Qui-Gon was named Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. People
Thank
are
you,
like,
George.
what the fuck are they talking about? We've referenced it in jokes in other episodes. Go back and watch if you want to see. There was almost a swap in the names in episode 1.
You can look it up. I think it was on StarWars.com. If you look up like Qui-Gon equals Obi-Wan, I'm sure you'll find it.
Yeah. Just a load of nonsense, but we're having some fun. We're just having some fun.
Well, I wanted to mention too, last week there was an Ishi Tib, the guy that is catching Captain Silvo, and he's like, "Oh, Silvo, is that you?" That's portrayed by Alfred Molina.
Yes,
which of course John Watts knows from Spider-Man: No Way Home.
No Way Home.
So it must have been the way that he got him on board here.
Yep. The power of the galaxy in the palm of my hand. Yeah.
But I kind of like this so far that Jod is known by 3 different names to all these people, and I wouldn't be shocked if we run into like if we run into another person that he has a fake name with. I'm just laughing because I want to see Conja Club from Force Awakens. Or who's the person that
it's like, aren't you Kyle Katarn? It's like, no.
Yeah. Oh my god, that would send the internet into a tizzy, wouldn't it?
In more ways than one. Oy.
But one of my favorite parts of Force Awakens is that guy be like, "Tell that to Conja Club."
Yeah. It's actually just him. Yeah, an old god. I will say though, while we're on that subject, I do hope that they don't try to make it some like big, like, oh, he's actually this character that we've written in legends and comics and all. I don't even know.
Caleb Doom.
Yeah, like something like that. I don't. God, that would never. But I don't. I hope it's not something like that where like they try to get too big brained with it, because I've loved the fact with this show that you don't really need. You need a very surface level sort of knowledge of Star Wars to come in this show and enjoy it. And I really hope they don't start getting bogged down with that kind of stuff. You know, they've dipped the toe in the whole Old Republic versus Old Republic sort of thing. And it's like, that's been a little bit confusing for at least people who are like longtime fans. You know, there's casuals who watch this who are just like, yeah, that is the Old Republic. And like Old Republic doesn't actually even mean anything to them. So I hope that it kind of keeps on that sort of surface level of things. Let's just enjoy this story for what it is. Let's not have to do a shitload of homework, even though as fun as it is for us fans. And, you know, one of the more fun parts of like the Acolyte and stuff was researching the sort of Easter eggy type stuff, you know, like with Cortosis and all that kind of real deep Star Wars lore stuff. As much as we appreciated that in the last show, I hope they kind of keep this one more self-contained and just what it is. So I think they will, though.
I think so, too. They've been very clear that there's no cameos type of thing in here. We're not getting the, you know, Yoda reveal as the supervisor or something.
Yeah.
Like Yoda's like, I'm actually alive. Alive I am. Supervisor I be.
Then Vernestra walks in. End scene.
She's like, man, wait until you find out what my pupil has done. But with last week as well, there was a moment that I thought was really cool when, you know, they mention what they've learned in school. Like, oh, Coruscant, Alderaan. She's like, you missed the war then.
Yes, they had no clue that Alderaan had just been totally wiped out. Yeah, I had that written down. Shit, I wish I had mentioned that earlier. Yes.
Just a fun little moment for us, and I think it proves to her that they're telling the truth when we're talking about where they're from. They are shut out. At least they're cut off from the news, right?
It's like
they didn't even know there's a war.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. Yeah, that's oh man, crazy, crazy, crazy. So man, I'm so interested to see what the hell is behind this. Again, it's one of those things where as we get more questions answered, more questions arise. And like I don't even actually I almost don't even feel like we've gotten many questions answered so far. I feel like it's just been more questions layered on top of it. Now that I kind of think about it, it's just yeah, there's so much left to go. And it's interesting because we still have half this show left to go, and
Yeah.
it almost doesn't feel like it. Like it almost feels like we're gearing up for like a 6 episode like kind of thing, but we've got a lot left to go, and that's very interesting. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I
Oh
think
no,
it's
yeah,
gonna be
definitely.
cool. I think it's gonna be cool. Yeah.
Where do we stand right now on Jod having the Force or not? Are we still in the same camps that we were?
I don't think he does. I don't think he does. Uh,
Because they played it pretty loose last week as well, where he creates a distraction. He also stops them from going because he feels the presence of people. But KB does the same thing, and Fern's like, "Oh, so KB has the Force now."
yeah,
But then he turns off the light as well in front of KB with the Force.
that is true, but that could also just be like a clap on,
Yeah, a
clap off.
timer or something. He's
Yeah,
like, "This is good to
yeah.
turn off in 5 seconds," and he does it.
I just like I feel like if he really had the Force, they would have. I would say they would have revealed it by now, but maybe not. Like maybe he really was a Jedi this whole time. Like I don't know, man.
I'm still going with he has the Force, but he's just very untrained. Was never picked up by the Jedi, never picked up by the Empire. Just like if I found out I had the Force and I can like move a candle or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. I can't lift the X-wing though, but like
Mhm.
I can pull a key. I can turn off a light. I can do like the bare minimum. I'm still going with that. There wasn't much in this episode that gives us any sort of Force hints or anything, unless if I'm missing something.
I do still think we're gonna end up in a Jedi temple at some point in these next 4 episodes too. Like they hinted at it so much in the first 2 episodes with Wim, and then even the kind of little the reference I mentioned before about the Knights of the Old Republic in this one. I know that's not Jedi super specific, but like I feel like they are so much hinting at like Jedi and like lightsaber wielder, force wielder kind of stuff. I feel like at some point we have to get something like that. And whenever that does arise, I think that's when we're gonna really get the final answer on to like what's going on with John, sort of thing.
Yeah, it might not even really be revealed until he does some sort of triumphant move that there's no doubt, and it's to save the kids
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Or to save whatever treasure they find from the other people, like if there's some sort of tussle or something.
He's gonna be holding up like thousands of pounds of rock while the kids run out, and I'm still gonna be here. No, I don't think he's a force wielder, man.
Magnets and
it's all an illusion. It's like Mysterio and Far From Home. This is all an illusion, an elaborate ruse.
Yeah, what would it take for you to believe in the Force?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we go, I guess anything else that we did not discuss?
Not that I have written down here. Again, it just not to sound redundant, but it doesn't feel like we've gotten many answers to things yet. We keep getting more and more pieces thrown on the puzzle board, and it's up to us to kind of speculate and put them all together in ways that we think fit. But the only thing that I feel very confident in saying right now is what my earlier theory was, that At Akron was At Attin. And I like your point too about how maybe this was all just, kind of cut, copy, paste planets. But I think that the emphasis from Strix on, fending for yourselves and, finding, acknowledging the strength in the kids and all that stuff, I feel like that was very intentional because they were abandoned. And I feel like that's kind of like the bow that ties it all together, sort of thing. So if there's one thing in this show right now that I'm sort of planting my flag on, that is it. With that said, I'm sure it's going to be wrong, and we're going to be here in 2 weeks, and I'll be like, well, that's out the window. Yeah. But that's, of all the things that I've speculated on this show, that's the one that I feel the most confident in. But with that said, there's still so much to answer. So I guess we'll see.
Well, I guess like, because I don't feel like I have that many questions. So like, what would you say are like the big questions that haven't been answered that you're looking for?
It almost feels like it's one big question in terms of what is At Attin hiding. But I feel like there's a lot of tendrils to that in terms of like, who is this supervisor? What is their like structure of government in their terms of their power hierarchy sort of thing? Like there's a lot that goes into that. It's about to change forever.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Wayne Johnson, welcome to Star Wars. No. But I feel like it's this one big question of what is At Attin hiding, but there's just a lot of different offshoots of that. You know, why is this whole area of the planet restricted? Because when they first landed on At Akron, that was my thought. They landed in one of those restricted areas that they aren't allowed to go to on At Attin. We found out that wasn't the case, but that's just another question. Like, why is so many parts of this planet inaccessible to the people that live there? Why is there a giant barrier around it that nobody can get in and nobody can get out without basically permission? So it's one big question with a lot of sub questions that go into it, I would say.
Yeah. So I guess that's why I'm like, I think once we get the one answer, we end up getting the cavalcade,
like domino effect.
Of this avalanche, right, of answers at that point. One thing we didn't really touch on was the scene at the beginning of episode 3, which was the parents' perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and they mention like, sorry, they're outside the barrier. Like, that's it.
Oh, well, yeah. We'll do it.
And Fern's mom talks about maybe going and seeing the supervisor. So I do think that is going to be right, or like talking to the supervisor about it. So I do think that'll be something that will, if we don't see it, but it'll be something that'll really kick in here, because it says the supervisor, Wendell asks if the supervisor is going to contact the Republic for help, and they pretty much say the supervisor is unable to risk any contact.
Which means the supervisor hasn't talked to the Republic in probably fucking 200 years. Yeah.
Yes. So does the supervisor even know what happened outside of this barrier? We don't know.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they're probably the only one that does, to be honest with you. They probably got some kind of like mole. No, like a mole spy that kind of is allowed to travel outside and report back. For all we know, maybe that's like, this might be a stretch, but maybe Jod's original group, like maybe they were the supervisor's original like group. And again, there's a time thing there that might not link up.
Okay, here's something that we didn't think about. What else is ageless, unlike like a Yoda or Maz Kanata? What if SM-33's whole crew were droids? And they have all these security droids that go to the supervisor, right? Like, what if that's the answer? So
it's that would make sense, and that would kind of dispel that whole age thing, because droids can live forever. So yeah, that could definitely be. I wouldn't put my money on that one.
Just throwing out something else about like.
Yeah. No, it's viable. It's viable for sure.
Okay. Well, I guess that'll wrap us up here.
Yeah, I would say so. Again, we are full speed ahead into the back half of this show, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of revelations over these next 2, definitely 4, obviously, because that's the end of the show. Yeah, but I think we're going to get a lot of. Yeah, it would be another accolade situation. But no, I think when next we meet after the new year, I think this picture will be a lot clearer.
Yeah, so the next 2 episodes are premiering on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So we'll get back, shortly after New Year's Eve. I kind of like the idea that like Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, I can sit down and watch new Star Wars. I really dig that. Ring in the new year, right? With Skeleton Crew. Like you mentioned, there's answers that we need to have, and if it's, I will say I have more faith in this show because of what they had set up with SM-33 and Fern and her droid. Like, that was something that I thought, like you said, was kind of a throwaway thing of her, like, oh, this is how she gets around the rules, and it just comes right back up again in this, and paid off. That I think they know what they're doing. It really felt like those type of 80s films, that were where you'd have those clues that lead into something, or a character uses a strength that they had very clearly defined at the beginning of the movie or episode.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, like CO Bibble says, you must contact us.
You must contact me
at podawakens@gmail.com or at podawakens on all of our social media. Have a great holiday season, no matter what holiday you celebrate. But, coming up here for Christmas and New Year's and a whole bunch of other holidays that are ramping up. Have a great holiday season, and we'll catch you back after the first of the year with more Skeleton Crew recaps.
Hello there.
You know what I've come for. This is the way.